Thank you so much for being here and for contributing your story to Pivots and Paydays. I am genuinely so excited for people to hear how your journey has gone, how you got to where you got to, because I know that a lot of the community are looking to pivot into the creative space. And I really don't feel like there's a better creative person, creative unicorn to come and tell them what that pivot is like and what to expect from it. So, again, huge thank you for being here. And welcome to Pivots and Paydays.
Thank you. I'm so excited, and I guarantee complete honesty, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But yeah, I'm really, really excited. Thank you for having me and thinking of me for this.
Of course. So we'll jump straight in then, because I don't want to waste any time before your pivot. So
Mm,
let's take this way back to when you graduated. Before your pivot, and people would ask you, "What do you do?"
mm.
How would you answer that question?
Okay, yeah, no. So I knew after my degree, which was a psychology degree, which I took mainly because I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, that
Hmm.
I didn't want to do something that was super traditionally academic. I didn't have a word for it. Obviously, we now call it creative. But I wanted to make money. And I didn't really know how those two things corresponded because I was really focused on like, those traditional roles that people from the diaspora usually go for. So I think in short, I jumped around from advertising. I did a short, painful stint in fashion, but it was always on the admin side of creativity. So yeah, I guess they would call it like an account exec, a merchandising assistant. So yeah, it was the admin side of creativity, but I just wanted to get my foot in there. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? In a way that felt familiar. So yeah, employed. Employed is what they called me. Yeah.
Okay. So that's brilliant. You kind of knew the space that you wanted to go into. After you pivoted, did you answer that question when people asked you, "What do you do?"
What do I do? I actually remember answering a question about this in an interview. Anything that brings an idea out of my brain into fruition, whatever you put on my invoice, that's what I am that day. Because I still didn't know what I wanted to do, but I was getting so informed on what I didn't want to do.
Right.
And so I think creative is the lovely umbrella term that was becoming more and more respected. Um, but I also know that I think when I was first going into it, I just called it presenting.
Okay.
It was very simply I want to show my personality. I want to have conversations, but I
Yeah.
don't know how much stretch there is for more. So that's kind of what it was immediately after the pivot. And
Yeah.
then it evolved into creative in a real sense of the word, like
Mm.
whatever I define it as, whatever's required.
You've said a couple of things there that we're gonna just hone in on as we go. The first thing though is you
Yeah.
graduated with a first class in psychology.
I graduated with a published dissertation.
You graduated with a first class, you got your dissertation published, and then you went into marketing advertising,
Yeah.
and then you decided, actually, I don't want to do this. I'm going to do anything that brings creativity out of my brain into fruition. At that point, without having like any social proof that it's going to work, what gave you the mental fortitude to be like, this is it, I'm going to do this?
Um, it was how uninspired I was by what I saw my future being if I didn't do something different. Like a lot of my idea about career trajectory was very much based on what seemed impressive or
Right.
seemed like I should be doing it. And I had done that for my whole academic career because honestly, what is academia if it's not impressing somebody else to a degree, right? Obviously, shout out to all the
Yeah.
independent thinkers, but you're getting graded, you're getting well done, you're getting certificates. It's all about somebody else telling you, and that started to really ring hollow for me. And I don't know, I started to see things. I remember I got the podcasting bug. I watched every podcast that
Yeah.
was made by like a young black person. I was obsessed. I could tell you what there would be something that happened that week. I would watch everybody's take on it. And as I was watching it, I just was thinking, oh, like not even, it wasn't even a critique. It wasn't a comparison. It was just like all the things that I loved about these shows, love these shows, by the way. I couldn't even believe it. People that spoke just like me, garnering such a massive audience, like people I didn't know but shared
Yeah.
experience. And I just, it's not even that I thought I could do it or anything like that. It was just like, what if
Right.
this show, but what if similar to this, and what if this takeaway? And my brain just started to kind of make a Frankenstein of exactly what I would want to watch, and what I enjoyed. And yeah, and then opportunity. I was
Yeah.
on a train after a really horrible day at work. I had my first beer. It was not great. I didn't even finish it. I don't know why I said that. Just add some color to the story. And then I was just on the train and talking to people as you do. We were just vibing, just
Do.
a slight happiness in my step, I guess.
Yeah.
And two guys that sat across from me kind of just started a conversation, and they were like, "Hey, like we do YouTube, and we would love you to be like an extra on it." And I was like, "Nah," because they're strangers. Who are these people? But then I was like, but I would love to be behind the camera and just kind of see what that looks like.
Yeah.
Just something different. And they invited me. Turns out they were doing what they were doing at YouTube's headquarters in the UK. And I went along, and I was as beg friendly, giddy, inquisitive, friendly as I possibly could be. Um, and I think that was the beginning of something for sure.
You're a very fascinating case study for why the question, what if this goes right, is better than the question, what are all the things that could go wrong?
Mm.
Because after your pivot, and I just want to go through a few of the highlights. And this is not an exhaustive list, by the way, but just a few of your highlights of like what are some of the things that happened once you bet on yourself and actually took the plunge and pivoted, right? So in your first attempt to do a show on YouTube, you had over 100,000 views. You hosted Afro Nation not once, but twice. You were the creative senior producer for Somerset House, pioneering Black queer Vogue balls for the first time for them. You've worked with brands like Nike. You've hosted on platforms like Channel 4. You've been on Guap Magazine's Blacklist. If I was to go through that list of milestones and highlights to the Koi that was on that train thinking, okay, I guess this is something that could happen, would she have believed me? Like, what would she have said?
She would have, you know. she she would have. She would have, because for it did she was not in her head. Like, she was not thinking about being great or being fantastic, or she was taking a break from needing to be great or needing to. She just wanted something that felt good after all the work of school and all the, we all do a lot to get through education,
Yeah,
and then to get to the other end of it and it be like, it's like dating and it's hard, and then
yeah,
getting married and then it's hard. Like, wait, hold on, isn't this part meant to be fun? But in reality, it's what you sign up for. And it felt like after all of that, I just was like, I'm in another kind of slog, another kind of, where is the space where I get to have that adult agency and be creative and be, and so that Koi just was having fun. It was the equivalent to her as going to the club. Nothing was meant to come of it other than having fun. And I think
right.
that mentality made things feel easier, and like they had to be done. And any spare moment I have, let's do it. And losing that mentality makes everything harder. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I think she was like, "Is that it? I wish I did more." Gotta do more.
I absolutely love it. And I hope that the people listening can switch into that mentality of thinking bigger and better and believing in that everything can go right and is possible. Because you need that. You absolutely do need that. You said something else, which was in the beginning part of, pre-pivot Koi, you were figuring out a lot of what you didn't want to do. Talk to me a little bit more about that.
Hmm, hmm, hmm. Okay, girl, I was working at this company and I hated it, but
Right.
they were lovely. But well, I had lovely experiences there. But I
Yeah.
remember every lunchtime, I would go to the toilet. Every time I could get away from my desk, I would. And then I would just walk and talk to everybody, the receptionists, cleaners, other teams, anything to keep me away from my desk. And I know this probably isn't what you guys.
I think a lot of people, not a lot of people do that, but like I'm not to expose anyone, but like I think a lot of people find distraction at work and find, especially when you're not enjoying what you're doing. So I think 100% nail on the head.
Yeah, that I hated it. And so all that time away from my desk, for some reason, the thing that would get me through the day is
Mm,
ideating these entertainment concepts. Um, I didn't know what they were going to be. I kind of was audacious enough to know it was going to be a show, but I
yeah.
had several different concepts. And girl, this like moving away, like this wandering around the office happened for a year or two solid. I couldn't leave because they had this thing where you would have to pay back stuff, and I was like, "Excuse me, I've just painted my house." So, so I felt very stuck there, and so thinking up these ideas to such an intense level of detail really created. It was the clearest I've ever been. Like,
Mm,
and I think that's why it didn't feel like some massive feat. It felt like I had carved out footsteps
right.
based on what I had available. What I didn't have, I had the time to learn. So I learned to edit in 3 very intense days. Not because anybody was onto me, but because I really enjoyed learning something that I wanted to learn.
It's almost, there's certain experiences that you're not necessarily going to love. It's not necessarily going to be the dream experience, but you can still carve out
Yeah.
ways that you can teach yourself skills that you're going to be able to use in the thing that you really do want to do, or you can still find time, ideally, to position yourself better for that post pivot lifestyle that you want to live.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. And I would say that's not even down to just early life stages. I think
Mhm.
like every business idea came from something well, not every, but a lot of them come from something being really annoying and somebody saying, I don't want to deal with this annoying thing again. Like I just watched a documentary on Canva, and for some reason this woman decided we need to make design easier, right? And so for me, I think if you are able to be irritated by something, or if you feel like something could be more enjoyable,
Mm,
feed into that. How annoyed are you? Are you annoyed enough to like fix it, change it, fix
right.
it for others? So I think not everything's going to be enjoyable, but actually, in the absence of money, in the absence of like when things are irritating, you get creative.
Hmm.
You find a way. You get creative, and I think sometimes people get creative to just handle that situation, but sometimes the creativity goes beyond that and becomes something else.
Yeah, incredible. Okay, so the practical side of that, then, like, I'm going to do this chronologically. You've been in a job, you've been working this job, you're not a big fan.
Yeah.
You have this idea, you have something else that you're thinking about that you want to do, and at the time that you're thinking about this, I really wasn't seeing that many like shows on YouTube, right? So this is very much a concept that you're thinking of without necessarily having too many examples of how to do this or necessarily having a blueprint of how to do this. If you haven't seen Koi's show, The Safe Space, please go and watch it. It will, particularly as a creative, it will energize and inspire. That is a promise. Thank me later. But at the time when you're thinking about this really isn't out there yet. So you know that that's what you want to do. You know where you currently are. Practically speaking, what then takes that idea of I know I want to pivot and then mobilizes it to, okay, I'm doing this. This is a thing that's happening.
Mm. Um, I think opportunity. So probably a mixture of things, but practically opportunity. So I got made redundant. This was 2020, so around COVID times. And so yeah, redundancy. Like I probably had like the worst attitude towards it because I was so happy. I
That's,
was really really
that's not a bad thing at all. Yeah.
I was really really happy because it was like fired plus. Like like yeah, you no longer work there, but
Hmm.
you also get a bit of money, a nice little chunk of change, which was like I felt rich. Um, looking back now, child, it was yeah, but it was great. It was good because it gave me peace of mind a little bit because I
Yeah.
knew how to just make a little stretch a long way anyway. So this was like, okay, I got a bit of time. Honestly, inside of me, there was no desire to go and look for something else, but
Yeah.
that didn't put pressure on me making it work at that point. That was just more so, you know how we get playtime as kids.
Yeah.
This as an adult in terms of I have an idea. I have
Yeah.
a bit of means. I haven't told anybody, so I don't have anyone trying to bring like adult responsibility to my brain. It's like just it's just like idea and freedom for a second around this idea.
Mm-hmm.
It was so interesting. I was talking to somebody earlier today, and this will answer your question in terms of the next practical point. Um, and I was saying I've had loads of ideas before, but this was probably the first time that I didn't allow something I lacked to stop me. So I didn't know how to edit at all. And where I've had other ideas, I was like, oh, but I can't do this, but I don't have that technical skill. With this one, I invested and I got a laptop and I wanted to edit a small little video. And my friend told me one thing. And when I managed to do it, oh, it was on.
Yeah,
Like I spent 3 days locked in my room and I learned everything to make that piece of content what I envisioned in my head.
yeah,
Um, and I think the third practical thing, but probably the least practical, is like a really detailed vision. Now, I don't think you need a really detailed vision. I think you need vision and resilience, but if you ain't really got the resilience part, clarity around, no, you need resilience, sorry. But I would say I had a really clear vision because of having so much time in my job, the way I spent time thinking about this, writing this down.
mm,
It was super tuned into what I really wanted to see. I was knowledgeable about the industry. So I really trusted this blueprint. Like, really, it wasn't a question in my head that this was
yeah.
going to be something I would watch. And that was good enough for me. So yeah, those would be the three things. I'm trying my hardest to like be an adult and be practical.
I mean, you say, being an adult and being practical about it, but I think that it's probably impossible to pivot into anything necessarily without that that level of like focus and I want it. Because I was thinking about this the other day, when you're pivoting into something, if it's different in any way from the life you're currently living, that new thing is probably going to desire a little bit more from you than you're currently doing. And you're
Yeah.
going to have to be willing to make that happen and upskill, or like you did, learn how to edit in 3 days, which, by the way, is absolutely insane. As someone that can edit, I could not have done it in 3 days. And to edit in the way that you did, to bring something to life that wasn't really around. To this day, I don't think I've seen anything as creatively organic as the safe space,
Thank you.
anything. And I say that because you didn't only have, guests on and you were talking to those guests, you also monetized it in a way where brands could work with you and you would create, I don't even know if it does it justice to call them ads. You would tell stories of these brands and bring them to your audience in a way that just was so unexpected and so fresh that it forced you to go to the brand and figure out what they were actually about. I've not seen anyone else do that to this day. So for me, it's incredible that you did that with what you had in 3 days. It's incredible that you were able to go from framing a I've been made redundant, but actually this is now fired plus. I've never heard anyone call it that. And I love that and I'm gonna steal that. But fired plus, framing it in that way and then using that as a launch pad to do what you did, that is incredible.
Yeah, I think it's incredible how much you can achieve when you don't think you can't. Like when there's nothing telling you can't.
Absolutely.
And I think that comes from telling people that are really supportive or telling no one. It's about really creating the environment that allows. I was gonna be selfish about this, like not in like a mean, horrible way, but in like there was a part of me that knew that this was a not a widely understood thing because I didn't fully understand it.
It was giving yourself that space to like figure out
Yeah.
what it was, right?
Yeah, literally. Like I think eventually I told you. I remember telling you and involving you because I wanted oh obviously I wanted my sister, but I wanted also um there was things I didn't know, right? There was information about equipment I didn't know, and so I reached out to you. But I would only tell people who were going to fan the flames of this idea. I didn't even. I remember telling somebody before I did it, and this person actually likes me. He's a really nice lad. He
Yeah.
was like, nah, nah, like, nah, nah. But I had to understand that they didn't know me. Like they didn't know me. Very few of us know the full capacity of anybody else other than ourselves, and barely then. So he didn't know me, and for some reason, which I won't say I'm always like this, did not shake me. In fact, it made me say, "Oh yeah, no problem."
Yeah.
Um. So yeah, like I think I created the space. And I did not care what that required. If it required me not telling people, I remember when it came out, people were like, "You put a whole show together. You didn't mention it once." I didn't even find it dishonest or secretive or anything. I just saw it as what the show needed was just me focused. you
Wow.
know, so yeah.
It's so interesting when you're like, when you have an idea, a vision, let's call it a vision, because
Yeah, definitely.
that better lends itself to the fact that nobody else needs to see it.
Yeah.
When you have that vision and you lock in, I think there's I guess we can call it the zone, but there's a certain zone that if you can tap into that zone, I think most of us spend our entire lives trying to get into that zone and feel that about something. But when you get into that zone, it's really, there's no telling what you're going to be able to do, what you're going to be able to create. I have a question that we're gonna get to a little bit later. That is going to dig into that a little bit more. But first, I want to just ask about your decision making process, because as a creative, you're probably, even while you were in the marketing role and you were ideating lots of different things, you're probably always thinking of a million ideas. How do you decide which one you're going to invest time, energy, effort into to actually bring to fruition? Like, what does that process look like for you?
That's so interesting. I think for me, I remember, so the Safe Space show was what I came out with, but that's what I came out with second.
Hmm.
Before that was a fashion concept that I came out with. And the only reason why I did it in that order, knowing that my heart really was excited about the Safe Space, was um what I had available to me. That was the biggest defining factor. I didn't really have like connections to many people outside of my immediate friendship group. I have a small family. I don't have tons of cousins who like know people and like all of that cool stuff. So yeah, it came down to what was available.
Mm,
But I know that I also would go out and seek out connections.
right.
But until the connections I wanted became available, whether that was working on somebody else's show, or whatever that was, whether it was building some sort of online relationship with people, just like comments or whatever. And
Mm,
these things were all very organic. There wasn't like a master plan, but I knew that I didn't know many people. I didn't know this industry, but
right.
I was a big fan of it. So I wanted to make sure that, I let people know I'm a fan of it. I like this, boom, boom, boom. So I think the main defining factor in terms of how I did my decision making was what my heart wanted to do the most, like what I was most excited about,
Yeah.
and what I had available to me. With the fashion content, I didn't need a guest. With the fashion content, I only needed one camera. With the fashion content, I could do it at home. With the other stuff, I needed a bit more space.
Hmm.
So I needed time to figure that out. But there's something about not staying still in inaction that is like naturally such a good thing. Like if you are doing something, it's of value.
Yeah.
You're doing nothing, it's taking away. It's taking away. It's taking away your confidence. You're not proving to your brain you can do it. You're sitting in the idea. You get comfortable. You start to fall out of love with the idea if you don't do it. I
Mhm.
know a friend of mine said that when she has an idea, she gives herself 3 working days to do something about it. Um,
I
it
love.
sounds right. It's
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
it's really good because sometimes you can be super precious about it and like I want it exactly that way. No, 3 working days, do something, and then
Right.
that way you learn something about the idea. You learn, oh, that idea kind of doesn't work that well without this additional camera, or can work, but you have to constantly show this idea you want to date it, otherwise it will leave,
Yeah.
or you will become disinterested.
You said something just then. You said you didn't want to become frozen in action.
Yeah.
Talk to me a bit about that, because I know that that is one of the most debilitating things there is. And it's a result of lots of things, right? Like you get busy with life, or there's other things you're thinking about, and you end up time's going anyway, and you haven't done anything to progress this thing that you want to do. How do you combat that even now?
How founder of Pivot&Paydays. Okay, so um inaction inaction is seductive because you get it's an action. You're controlling your environment. You're controlling. I'm definitely not going to succeed because I haven't done anything. It's
Right.
kind of like that person that says I didn't do well because I didn't revise. It's a excuse you go into the future to make for yourself. And I say this because that love I'm a feelings person, which is great but inconsistent.
Mhm.
If it's not backed up with mechanisms. And so that the Koi I spoke about pre the Safe Space show, she had so much of that feeling. it allowed her to go. You know, it allowed her to just keep going. There was no pressure. I didn't know what I was stepping into. Fantastic. Inaction is something that I have personally experienced actually later on. And so I can give you some real opinions on this. Inaction is an excuse your future self gives you, and it's really horrible because it supports every doubt in your brain. It supports you can't do it. It supports it's not necessary. The world continues with that idea. It
Yeah.
is it is such a powerful enemy. It's such a powerful op because in your inaction, it feels like you're doing nothing, but it's a decision you're making to not value your idea enough, or not value yourself, or to not value your belief system. It's really hard to get out of once you start. So if you don't do it, fantastic. Keep valuing that. If you do it, you can break out of it. Of course you can. But I think for me, inaction, when I really try to break it down, inaction is just me making tomorrow predictable, um,
Mm,
so that I can, oh, I didn't do anything today, so there won't be nothing required of me tomorrow.
yeah.
Um, but it's dangerous. It's really dangerous because you don't get to choose. You have forever to do whatever you want to do. Honestly, you have forever,
Mm,
but you don't get to just waste you. You don't get to just do that without some sort of negative impact, And yeah, so there are a lot of thoughts allowed out there, but yeah, you don't want to be frozen in action. Fight it and do something. If you can't do that big, wonderful, amazing, life changing thing that you want
mm,
to do today, do a small crumb of it. That is enough to starve off the inaction. That is enough to starve off all the negativity that comes with it. Just that small thing. Because once you get a taste of what that small thing becomes, your
right.
brain just tells you, do a little bit more, do a little bit more. But if you
Right.
get comfortable in promising tomorrow is the same as today, it's really sad. It's a really sad thing. But if you are in that, you can change it. You
Yeah.
can change it by doing a crumb of something.
Yeah. I think that, thank you for being so transparent in that as well, by the way. I think one of the salient things that you've just said is that there's like a safety in and a predictability in inaction that means that you know what tomorrow is going to look like.
So crazy.
That's when my mind was blown because oh my god, yes, you do feel safe. You are making tomorrow predictable, but you're not growing. You're not getting any closer to where you actually want to be, and that creates such a psychological discomfort. Like the idea that everything you want to do is possible. It's possible for you, and you are the person standing in your way.
You want to bang your head on the table, bro. You want to bang.
It's like you wanna fight yourself, and yet you don't because you're not taking action.
Yeah.
Do you, do, you- do
It's
you see
yeah.
where I'm coming from? You are then in such it's such an uncomfortable position.
Have you ever been in that position? I feel like I don't want to assume anything of you, but you
No,
may.
I I don't think I'm quite lucky in the sense that I think that one of my biggest assets is my mindset. Like I have a very deep rooted discipline and a bias for action. So when you're talking about that kind of that just do a crumb, do the smallest possible thing. I will always do the smallest possible thing, and you're completely right. Objects in motion stay in motion, right? It's just physics.
Yeah.
When you do that small thing, you're going to want to do the next thing, and then the next thing, and then you're the next thing, and then before you know it, you're enjoying it, you're seeing progress, and then you want to carry on. And then the force that's driving you isn't necessarily um you forcing yourself. It's that you're just moving, so it's easier to keep going. And I'm quite fortunate. I think that's always been instilled in me from quite a young age, and I've just never fallen out of it. Touch wood, it's never too late.
Right, right. I won't let you. You absolutely won't. But yeah, no, it's like any action you do is a gift to the future self. So inaction is like you're robbing yourself. It's not nothing. Nothing is nothing. Everything is a choice and an action with consequences.
Mhm.
And yeah, inaction can be many things for different people. It could be perfectionism, which is another excuse. It could be, and this is
Mm,
not little people, but I know we want progress more than we want hugs, right? So yeah, like in that, it could be down to perfectionism, comparison. It could be down to a whole host of stuff.
yeah.
But you could spend forever diagnosing that, which will help long term, or you can be doing that whilst just doing a crumb.
Yeah.
just doing a crumb, and yeah.
No, that's really, really good advice. The other reasons that potentially could bring on this justification of inaction is like really practical things, right? Like I have bills to pay, or I have all of these adult responsibilities. When you initially pivoted, how did you keep the lights on during that transition? How did you pay your bills and all of that good stuff?
So like I do like the concept of like having money. I do like the concept of like making money. So
Mm,
part of my creative ideas was around how do I sustain this? And that's when I came up with the ad idea. And that was to like hijack popular ads, like the Cadbury's Gorilla ad and stuff like that. Obviously I'd worked in advertising previously. So
yeah.
this was like my cute little middle finger. No, I'm joking. But it was like my it was my attempt at, because sometimes I'll see them do ads and they were like slow and demure, and I was like,
Mm,
ads are like everyone's least favorite part of this experience. They don't have to be. I remember having that idea so clearly and thinking, oh, I've got to bring this to life.
right.
So in terms that there are ways to make money, depending on what your idea is.
Yeah.
I would say what I also learned is that it's a lot of pressure to put on yourself to expect what you love to to give you what you need all the time. It's a lot of pressure to put on yourself, especially when you're starting out. So I think just like any problem, find a solve. For me, it was to cut my expenses to nothing. Honestly, I was staying at my mum at the time, and um, yeah, like nothing was important to me other than doing the show. Maybe because I thought the show was going to become a source of income, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I really cut down my expenses. I wanted to freelance. I wanted to kind of continue doing this.
Yeah.
I did start by advertising, creating content for people in my show. I did then start offering the service of creating content for people, and that's kind of how my freelance marketing life kind of came to be.
Yeah.
And I just kind of did it by, people remember how you made them feel, so people knew I was going to try my hardest. So
Yeah.
I just started doing things for like a therapy company, a book that somebody wanted to push, self-published book, and I remember those were two of my first clients, and I figured it out, and it's really stressful because it's so lovely to have like a blueprint that you can just follow, like in terms of a 9 to 5 with a manager and a way of doing things. But with this, it was just like I know the end part needs to make them feel as good as when they watched my content,
Right.
and so I just had to like do that, and it wasn't easy, and it wasn't the funnest part of my job in terms of it wasn't just me childishly running towards something that made me feel good. It was like I have a responsibility. But that is how I kind of kept the lights on. And then host presenting as well. So once I made the show, there were so many ways in which I could present myself as of value to other people. So
Yeah.
whether that was hosting, whether that was and even if it was things that I wasn't doing, if it was adjacent to those things, I could put myself in that. Something I didn't do enough of, but was really good as well, was reaching out to people when I felt like I could bring value to what they were doing. Um, and like I said, keeping my cost really low allowed me to say yes and say no. Oh, and one thing was when I started doing my like helping people create content, um after I said to the guy, this is all locked in, the price is all locked in, we're good. How much would you have actually paid me?
What did he say?
It, I want to throw my head on the ceiling. He gave me I charged him, I think, 3 figures. He came back with minimum something like I can give you real numbers. So I think at this point I was thinking 253. I thought, ooh, that's for one thing, yeah. He said, yeah, the price is locked in. Yeah, I said, I promise the price is locked in because I didn't know how else. Even everybody knows in the content space,
Yeah.
there's no rule, right? And I hate feeling like I'm working for nothing. So
Yeah.
so I said, yeah, everything's locked in for you, no problem. He said, yeah, I would have absolutely given you like 3K. Um,
What did you do immediately after he told you that? What did you do? How did you feel?
Yeah. So one thing about me, I love good customer service. So like I know to be polite, I know to be. So I wrapped up that call with all the politeness. So thank you so much for sharing that with me. Can't wait to start this project. Let's schedule. Boom, boom, boom. I got off the phone. I laid down on the living room floor, looking at the ceiling for like. I'm not gonna lie. I hated that job, because everything I did felt like unpaid labor. Like it felt, like obviously every time I communicate, well, yeah, this is wonderful, fantastic. Now, are you happy with this? 2 iterations, let's go. But I'm so grateful for just the like human way I approached it,
Yeah.
because it gave me all the audacity in the world for
Yeah.
everybody coming forward. And I definitely made more money than I would have made when I was working on a monthly salary.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to, by the way. I could have done this and not thought of any of those things and just had a really good time and made chicken change. But there has to be a part of you that serves what you need as well as what you enjoy. And that was like baked into my idea. Like I didn't want to be a starving artist. Remember, I wanted creativity with cash. But yeah, like I lay down every time I saw him. I had to hide my grimace. Now I'm joking. He was a lovely, he was a lovely guy. But yeah, it was good, and it felt honest, and I kind of kept doing that until I got to a place where I knew what my financial goals were. I knew kind of that this job requires this amount of work. So,
Mhm.
and I felt justified in like my pricing moving forward. But there is a lot of quick decisions that needs to be made. There's a lot of getting it wrong. I really hate getting things wrong. By that time I didn't. It felt like just finding things out.
Yeah.
Um so yeah, that I probably answered a million questions there, sorry, but
No, no,
yeah.
no. This is great. This is exactly what I want you to do. Like speaking on this experience, there's so many things I can immediately pick from. The first one is like how to avoid that ouch moment where you're laying down on the living room floor and looking up, because you're completely right. A lot of the time, you don't really have a concept of, well, what should I be charging? What does one engagement look like? There's not really that much transparency out there, and everyone's doing it slightly differently. If you were starting today, what advice would you give to people pivoting into the industry to kind of make sure they understand and have a bit of a gauge of how to charge for their skills and their talent?
Well, if you're that way inclined, research. If you're like me, get that out as early as possible.
Mm,
So, you know, jump in and then create good relationships and ask questions.
right.
Like I don't think you can avoid the ouch. I think it's a terrible idea to go about life
Yeah.
wanting to avoid the ouch.
Yeah.
I actually think the best thing to do is get that out quickly. Because I did that out. That was after my first thing.
Right.
I didn't have another ouch again. That's a lie. I didn't have that ouch again. I had smaller ouches, when
Mm,
I would diversify what I would be offering and stuff like that. But I would say get the ouch quickly because that feels more achievable. Like you're gonna get things wrong, but how can you find it? Ask questions, build good relationships, whether it's public facing, B2B, even if it's online, have the most welcoming chat in the world. But
yeah.
just like understand that your customer is more than cash. Like they are experience. They are people that make the user experience better. Like they're all of that. And then I would say the other thing is, obviously research. Research is good. Make friends in the industry. Make connections in the industry,
Hmm.
um, and ask questions. And if you ask about 5 people, the average of that is good. And then I would say also be audacious. Like there's this thing about entering a new industry, imposter syndrome maybe, but you go in and you want to be the most well behaved in the
Yeah.
room.
Yeah.
You want to not be remembered for anything bad, so much so that you get rid of everything that's good. You get rid of what makes you different and interesting. You see a lot of people leave who they are behind, like outside the door when they go into places.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't know if how I feel like Howard would agree with me. Howard has some of the best suits in the world, and when she walks into spaces, like the suit will be tailored, it will be orange, it will be pink, and then she will give the most impressive presentation. And I'm sure they love the presentation, but how much easier is it to remember somebody who also remembers how to look good? And I
Mm,
feel like you don't have to become what you think that room is because you're the least qualified expert on that room. So
right.
why are you trying to bank on that knowledge? But you're the most qualified on you. And I think one thing I'm really bad at and like is leaving myself outside of the door. If she comes in, she finds a way, she's stuck to the shoe. And sometimes it doesn't feel like a good experience and sometimes it doesn't work, but that means that's not a room I was really meant to be in. So I would say like come into the room with that element of yourself you want to be known for, whether it's your wit, whether it's your level of research, whether it's how prepared you can be, and use it in the room.
Right.
Use it. And I think that's the way to avoid the ouch, because um, you're not, you'll get ouches if you try to be somebody else. You'll get less ouches if you are yourself. Or ouches you can handle, you know? I don't think ouches are avoidable.
Again, really brilliant advice. And also, thank you. I take great pride in my suits. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. But yeah.
um, but I think that's really, really great advice. The other thing that I, as a creative, have seen other creatives also do is we can sometimes become so wedded to our idea that at the beginning you kind of forget that it also has to make money. And something I love that you did was straight from the offset, you thought practically about, I want to create, but I want to create and also have cash. I don't want to live the life of the struggling artist, because actually practically in the world that we live in, it's just not going to work and it's not sustainable for a long period of time. That was a phenomenal decision that you made. How did you negotiate with yourself and your inner creative that that's what you were going to do and that's the approach you were going to take to creating?
My brand of creativity doesn't like poverty.
Mm, mm,
My brand of creating thinks of creativity as an expression first and foremost. I will say I'm not obsessed with money.
yeah,
I'm obsessed with freedom. I'm obsessed with the right to say no.
absolutely.
So yeah, like my brand of creativity is, it makes people like it. People want to, in my head, this is what I want. It's not like a creative that, oh, I only want three people to understand it and get it. Shout out to everybody that's like that.
Yeah.
For me, like my brand of creativity is inclusive. I think it adds to people's day, and I
Mm,
think I should be compensated for that. I honestly also just to be able to continue to do this.
yeah.
If I knew that if I got to a place of zero, I would have to get a job. I would have to go and get a 9 to 5 or a different situation that would
Right.
take me away from this thing that feels like I need and want to be here.
Yeah.
Um, and there's a balance. There is over relying on your creative baby to make you money that could kill it. There is not making money at all, that can kill it. There is, it's like creativity is a she is resilient, but she needs the right conditions, and I just need the conditions that mine needed. I know that I wouldn't enjoy creating if it felt like it was at the expense of my family.
Yeah.
um, I knew I also have a very supportive family, so I knew I could create the space, create the allowance. I communicated as much as I felt was necessary
Hmm.
about certain things. Remember, I had the redundancy pay, so I had a bit of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, like money is necessary, and I would say if you want to be able to do what you want to do freely, incorporate making money into that, or minimize your finances entirely and get something else that you can do that doesn't take as much brain space. So even if you're a lawyer, get a barista job, get something that,
Mm,
depending on what your creativity is, but get something that brings money in, but your brain doesn't need to do gymnastics. So then that way you have energy to come back and do what you got to do until
yeah.
that makes you money. If you're writing a book, fantastic. You need to write it. You're not going to make money from that. Well, you could film content about writing this book and create, you could, there's stuff you could
That's
do.
what. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But if that's going to impede what you're doing, find the money from somewhere else. But I will never do you lot dirty and say you don't need to have some sort of provision coming in, because you need to eat. You need to be able to engage with life. And one thing I found really important was experiences outside of work. Like
Yeah.
you need to be able to hang out with your friend. Well, not everybody, but some people need. I found that I got to a point where I needed to be able to hang out with my friends. I needed to be able to like look at see a different country. I needed experiences to fuel my creativity,
Yeah.
and so that's when money became important again as well. And I just had to like, but we're all different, but you know what you need.
And it's a balance too, right? Like there's the practical and immediate thing of I need money, I need to eat, and there's also the strategic thinking of I need to put enough time into the thing that I want to create in order for it to actually be feasible and possible. It's not just going to happen. You've illustrated that really, really well. When you were coming into the industry, you mentioned at the beginning you didn't have a ton of contacts. That's a community that you had to build, and you did so very organically. What assumptions did you have about the industry when you were coming into it, and did you have to let go of any of those assumptions? in order to be able to like exist in it in the way that you do?
How Pivots and Paydays.
Go for
Um, I I think Howard attested this. I'm a soft-hearted babe. I think one of my assumptions was that I was making friends.
it. Mm,
I made some really dope friends. Like I made some really dope, cool people. But that's off the back of relationship, you know? But like when it is an
yeah,
exchange of, you know what it is? People that love what they do will help you if they see that you love what you do and you're doing something that they respect. So I didn't
yeah,
go out immediately and start making friends. I created, and I think I was saying this to someone yesterday. There's two ways I think to quote unquote make it. Is either to make content or make a product that appeals to the industry that you're in,
mm,
or make product or content that appeals to the audience. And I went with the audience.
right,
I am the audience. I made for me, and I made to make, you know, people smile, people think, people whatever.
yeah,
And by doing something well, people of that industry will respect that. They will see it and respect it, right?
100%.
Um, might take a second, might take a day, and also you don't need 100 of them to see it. It's one, it's two. And I remember getting messages and emails from people I really respected, kind of just saying, "You're doing your thing." You know, some people do it from afar, kind of like, "You're doing your thing, keep going." They didn't invite me to their house, they didn't invite me on their, but it would just be like a, "I see what you're doing," and now that opens a line of communication, right? Because now I can go back to them and say, "Hey, I'm struggling with this or this," and they get to decide how much they remember that audacious, like they
Right,
decide how much they want to feed in. They don't owe me anything. Always have gratitude for anyone who's willing to give you anything.
yeah,
Um, but I would say that be focusing on creating something that I was proud of. That because otherwise you're gonna be so sheepish if you feel like
mm,
someone's doing you a favor every time. You're gonna be so sheepish and feel so indebted and you know.
yeah,
But if you're creating something that's really good, you're gonna just feel very proud of what you're doing and grateful for anybody who can add. And I think that attitude attracts more people. That so I would say create something that you like. I would say create for your audience or create for the industry. Two different ways of doing it.
mm,
Um, and I would say be normal. So like we when we're like I said, remember when we get into a room, we let go of certain things. Like just think, how would you want someone to approach you? And
yeah,
often I would say the easiest thing is value exchange. Hey, can I come and shadow? I will handle all the drinks and get all the food orders that day.
right,
Like you'll be surprised by how impressed people are by normal, healthy behavior. There's
yeah,
like they don't see enough of that because a lot of times people come, oh, come on my show. That's it. End of request.
right,
No exchange. Why? That person's sweated over whatever they've created. Like, show them you value it by offering something.
right.
And it can be little. It can be being a helping hand. It could be, you know, but that will help you enter the room with a bit more confidence, I think, than taking and giving nothing back. Yeah.
100%. I've been very obsessed with this concept of like learning and relearning how to dream big without
Mm,
limiting what's possible despite your past experiences. So
mm,
heartbreaks in ideas is a real thing, and I think as creators we can probably all relate to that. But the ability to be able to dream big after your idea heartbreak and bring something else to life.
mm,
You as a creative, how do you cultivate and protect that as a skill in order to be able to keep creating? Because I think we become out of practice with it a little bit as we grow up, or as we become more responsible, or as we have lots of ideas and maybe some of them don't work out. You shrink that ability to
mm.
be able to dream big. It becomes smaller. You're, to me, one of the most creative people out there. How do you protect that? And you do it from such an organic place. So what do you do to cultivate and keep protecting that energy and that creativity of yours?
The truth is that I lost it. I
Fair.
lost it for a second. Um, anything you don't feed doesn't grow, right? So I lost it for a second because I think I got it's so easy, especially if you come from a like a like an academic background, to kind of define success by opinions. And dreaming big is to disregard what people think is possible. Like aiming for applause would always, I think, steer you away from I think for me, it stares you away from dreaming big. And I remember like actually praying. Like I remember like actually going to a place of prayer and just be like, God, help me like dream big again, and I'll update you on how that goes. But I think for me, it was identifying what I have in abundance,
Right.
and then thinking what feels too big to do with that. Like, what do I really want to see in the world that feels like you're being childish, or
Mm.
you're being a bit
It's too much.
passionate. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're being a bit like whatever starts to make me start thinking and talking like a negative adult. Oh, you're walking in the direction of thinking big, because nothing a negative. There's nothing that a average adult does more than tell you what isn't possible. Like, then limit your, do you know what I mean? Just that run of the mill 30-year-old, that run of the mill 4-year-old, you know, that person who's paying their bills, or just cool. They're cool. They don't laugh at the jokes in the office. They're just that cool. When you start to activate that within yourself, when you start to
Mm.
feel like other people wouldn't get it, or maybe there's a part of you that doesn't get it, you're in the realm of thinking big. Because thinking big is honestly, um, it's for the brave kids, man. It is. And so I think you have to get back in touch with what did you want to do before people started having opinions on you, or before you started caring about what you promised people you were going to be, you know? Um like, when if you hear, what's the point of that? There's others doing it. If you hear
Mm.
if you hear that, where are you gonna get the money for that? If you hear, come on, like, start small. If you hear these kind of things, you're in the realm of thinking big. Well done. Congratulations. Keep persevering.
You're so right, though. It's like it's one of those things where, like I said, it's a muscle, right? And it's exactly what you said in the beginning. Things that you don't, if you don't feed it, it can't grow.
Yeah.
If you're not constantly working on this thing and working on the skill of thinking big, then you will lose your ability to be able to. And
Yeah.
I felt similar in parts of my journey. And I remember I actually, when I was in my pivot, and I had no concept, no real concept of what I could do in the area that I was pivoting into, which was cybersecurity. I had no concept. I didn't even know where to start dreaming. I had no idea what was possible. And I had a one-to-one meeting with a coach. And I came in and I literally, she was like, what do you want to work on? What do you want us to talk about? And I said, I want you to help me dream, because I don't think I know how to do that in this space. And it was the most fascinating conversation I've ever had, because it grounded me in the fact that because you're in a new space, it's going to work in your favor. The fact that you don't know the rules of this space, it means you're going to be
Yeah.
able to kind of
Yeah.
leverage all of the things that you do know, that you do
Yeah.
well, that you've gained experience in from
Yeah.
previous roles, and you're going to be able to create create the dream. The
Mm.
dream doesn't have to fit a box. It doesn't have to be what anyone else has done before. And I think for me, that has probably been one of the most freeing things about me pivoting into a new industry. So yeah, thank you for sharing your experience on that. I've definitely experienced the same thing.
No, 100%. And I think one other thing as well is the idea of dreaming big can suggest something that involves everybody's applause, and it's huge, and it
Yeah.
changes the world, and I love that kind of dreaming big. I love a I'm gonna take a spaceship to Mars type of dreaming big. I love that. But one thing that has always been in my head, and I don't know if it's true or not,
Go
but
on.
I heard that the person that does Oprah's eyebrows used to, like, as I'm about to say this, it feels like it was a lie, but I'm just gonna say it's been a core thing in my brain. But
Yeah.
they used to, like shave the sheeps in the Ukraine. Like, it was like a lady who was like the top weaver of something. I don't know, in a foreign land, and
That seems make me plausible, actually. Yeah.
right. But it always spoke to me about whatever your talent is, it can take you to the moon. And that's what I think about dreaming big. It
Yeah.
can be upskilling or learning something different, but it almost is that core thing that when you were being made was dropped into your essence, and it keeps popping up,
Yeah.
whether it's having conversations, whether it's cooking a cookie. There's entire companies based on cookies, just cookies alone. Like, not all the desserts in the world, but that's specialist thing. And so I think part of the idea of dreaming big to me is taking that thing that is just in your essence and just riding it to the end. Like literally, I don't even think you always need vision to dream big. I think you just need to push constantly,
Yeah.
like unnecessarily. Like even when people tell you to chill out, no, I want to see where thing is going to take me. And I
100.
think that is dreaming big is just constant action in new ways, like, so, and I think you do that, sis.
I'm trying. It's something I think about. So it's always at the forefront of my mind. I spoke to someone and she gave me a quote that's going to stay with me forever. She said, I don't want to be someone who was, I always want to be someone who is. And this
Mm,
blew my mind because
mm,
obviously, like, we wake up with ourselves every day, right? Like, you don't want to wake up one day and not recognize the version of you that you're seeing. And I think the way that you do that is to stay engaged with who you are right now and the things that that person wants, and like keep striving for those things and keep trying to go for them. That way you stay as someone who is, and not, oh, back when I was this age and I was doing all of these things. Like, you can just keep doing them. That's it. Just keep
yeah,
going. So
yeah,
yeah, that's been on my mind a lot recently. Again, to kind of bring it back to kind of your pivot, your journey so far,
yeah,
we obviously talk a lot about the pivot, when you're pre-pivot and then the transition bit and then you get to where you're going.
yeah,
When you get there though, so in your case, when you've gotten to the other side and you're now in the creative space, you are a household name, everyone recognizes you, you're doing the thing,
yeah,
what does that feel like? Because we talk about the pivot, but not necessarily
yeah.
life after the pivot. Like, what does that look like? What does that feel like for you?
It's the human condition to be a bit rubbish. Like, like I think it's the human condition to like enjoy things a lot in memory and hindsight when you're not as emotionally there. But after gallivanting and exploring and existing and making space for my for my ideas, um other people were involved, audience, and all of that stuff. And
Right.
there was the immediate like, yo, this is cold. And then that part of your brain that's like, I knew it was gonna be, but this is really nice. Like, I like that people
Yeah.
get it. I like that people feel it. Like, I really like that because I love connection. And I love that they get the idea, it didn't fall flat, wonderful. And then you need to constantly be developing to maintain your gift and your idea.
Yeah.
Like, the person that started the idea, a better version is required to carry it. Um, and
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. And I think I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that people connected with it, but then I immediately felt like, not immediately, but shortly after, felt a lot of pressure. Felt a lot of pressure to maintain, to keep it up. I liked how getting it right felt, and I didn't want to get it wrong. And you kind of need to be okay with getting things wrong on the long term journey of growing and being great. Like,
Yeah.
it's not gonna be back to back wins, right? Um, and so that's what I learned. That's what I learned. So it was great. It was wonderful. It opened so many doors. Yeah, it's open still to this day. It opens so many doors. I'm incredibly grateful. But I definitely think that I didn't enjoy it as much once. Like, is that true? Yeah, I think my focus moved from creating to um success.
Right.
It moved away from like creating something that felt really tapped into, I knew the audience, I knew the world, I knew I really want to bring this idea to fruition,
Yeah.
to I want this to keep doing well, I want this to keep doing good. And there is a real need to, and I think most people know this, eventually, to like divorce yourself from your product, because if, you shouldn't have the feeling that if your product doesn't do good that you don't, but it's part of the love. It's
Yeah.
right, it's part of the love of, you poured yourself into it, so it's hard to, it's like not caring if your kid is sad. Like, I'm not there yet, but like, you're gonna care. It's not you didn't fall over, but you're gonna be like, oh, you're gonna feel it because you poured so much of yourself into it. And so Um, yeah, I think I felt all the things I was gonna feel just because I'm a feeler, I'm passionate, I'm intense. I love creating, I love pouring ideas, I love bringing things to fruition. And
Mm,
so being in it was amazing that I could do it. It was pressure in terms of how do I keep doing it, unnecessarily so, by the way. Um, and but that I can do it is a never. It's like a forever lit flame. It's like,
yeah,
what else can I do? Because at one point they didn't think I could do that. And
right.
that guy that didn't believe in the idea, super nice guy, by the way, but he didn't believe in the idea. He didn't see me doing it. Just getting all these people saying, what, you're funny, what, you get it, what? And it's like, it's so important that you understand people only know what they know. They don't know everything, you
S-
know?
There's, each of us only see such a small percentage, you know. So,
Right.
100%.
Right. So yeah, so dope. It was amazing. Got to do amazing things. Traveled off of vibes and personality and creativity. It was amazing. It was like I found a rich man, but I am the rich man. Do you know what I mean? It was amazing. It was wonderful. But it also came with the need to grow quickly. And not just in terms of capacity, but in terms of resilience, building mechanisms that support me, not relying on my will, my gut, but like relying on systems that work. And there's a very different person that's talking today than 4 or 5 years ago when I started that journey.
Hmm.
So yeah.
There's two points there that I'm gonna want more of a perspective on you of you from. The
Okay.
first one is, on this journey, does anything come to mind that really caused your mindset to shift?
So it might be a bit anticlimactic, but I think it was sitting in that discomfort you spoke about earlier at the beginning of the show, for as long as I felt like I did. It was as present as the sun the next day. It just was
Yeah.
there. Like it doesn't go, it doesn't shift because your soul doesn't give up on you ever. You might give up or get tired or try
Mm,
to contemplate a different thing, but there's something in you that like wants what it wants and wants you to persevere, wants you to return to that last time you felt great or whatever. So I think that kind of like that just lingering dissatisfaction
yeah.
was um was probably the thing that made me think, yeah, I'm not on the right journey right now. I need to like return. When was the last time I felt fulfilled? And do you know what? One thing I realized as well was creating and like film and like production was the first time I felt satisfied.
Right.
So yeah, there wasn't like it was the first time I felt the equivalent of finding my voice.
Right.
So yeah, you remember that feeling, you remember that. And I would say just like, if something's in you and you are brave enough to pursue it, it's
Mm,
always you gave birth to something. It's always yours. You can always return, you can always whatever you want, but it's yours, and you're gonna always feel the presence or the absence of it,
right.
which is probably not healthy. If you don't feel that way, fantastic. But
Yeah.
but yeah.
I mean, yeah, that I think is spot on. The other side of that is, and you touched on it in the last question you answered, but how was your idea of success changed from the beginning of this journey
Mm,
to where you are right now?
wow.
How was that changed?
I think even when I was working hard, I generally still felt like it's lucky. It could be taken. It could be like there was something about it that didn't feel under my agency.
Mm,
I didn't There was something I almost thought of it as like a whimsical fortunate thing as opposed to something that is the outcome of work, whether you regard it or not. Sometimes
right.
when you enjoy what you're doing, you can downplay, and sometimes the world will downplay it too, and it can kind of feel like, oh, but no, you create your life, and yeah, some things may feel like they fell in place, but you know, I came up with ideas. I went and pursued this. I negotiated contracts and deals. There's things that went into it, and I think when I think of my idea of success is that I I am because it's because of me. I've done this. I did this, and I think that's something that I really played down in the previously.
Yeah.
Also, you are responsible entirely for whether you do it or you don't do it.
Yep.
Um, and I also think, in terms of success, the biggest and most freeing element of that is that think of what success is with nobody else on the planet. Like what does that look like for you? And try your hardest to like keep that as your North Star, because there's a lot of things that look like success. Um but they they aren't really, you know? So I would say like, you know, success for me is, which just sounds a bit silly now because I said if no one's on the planet, but is connection. It's people feeling why I intended them to feel. Um it is reach. It is, you know, I'm not gonna play about that. I want that girl, that boy, somewhere that has that experience to feel something different. I want that.
Yeah,
Um, and it is, if you took what was in here and other people can feel it and see it, you know, so that's that. And it's cash moolah, you know, it's cash moolah to a degree as well.
of course, of course.
But yeah, I would say it's changed, and I think it's going to continue to change. But I like my definition of success today a lot more than the one previously. The one previously was too vague and it held me hostage. This one is, she's clear about what she wants and she's available to me if I go and get her. Do you know what I mean? So that's how.
100%. 100%. Okay, I have two more perspectives from you that I really want you to share with our Pivots and Paydays community. The first one is when you made that initial pivot. So obviously you were already doing something that you wasn't loving at the time. What did you want from the space that you were pivoting into? Like what were you looking for? What did you hope that that move would give you? Was it, I don't know, success? Was it validation? Was it more money? Was it, what paydays were you looking for from that pivot?
Community, more exciting days. Like I didn't want predictable. Yeah, I didn't want what I was experiencing at the time.
Mm,
And once I kind of realized how much like how much more I could be making, it was value, it was the money, it was money for my time, it was value on my talents. um I also wanted to become, I wanted to paint or create the life I was envisioning in my head that I should be living. I wanted to do that. I wanted days where I'd wake up and I'd go and get a matcha. Don't even like matcha. And I wanted days where I would
yeah,
be on a call and nobody knew what country I was in because my clients and the people I work with are all over the world. In
yeah,
fact, this is a prayer. I wanted to dress how I wanted to dress, you know. I wanted to spoil my friends the way I wanted to spoil my friends. I wanted access to things I didn't know existed, whether that was information, whether that was, you know, and I wanted community. I wanted to meet like-minded people who felt like creativity was a necessity in their life, not an inconvenient fluff. I wanted that.
yeah,
I wanted to feel more normal. I wanted to be around people that we mesh, we make sense, rather than people where I had to constantly have to fight for my space or my opinions and my ideas. And yeah, that's what I wanted. I wanted very specific scenarios. I won't share all of them, but very specific scenarios I wanted to be able to do and access.
yeah.
And yeah, because life can be very boring and grey if you don't actively.
If you don't build the life you actually
Yeah.
want to live, right? I think that's a phenomenal list of reasons, by the way. And I wanted to get that perspective from you because I think there's a lot of people that are going to be listening to this, I hope.
Yes.
And they they will have a list similar to the one that you just ran through of why they want to do and pivot into the thing that they want to do. And they will have an equally long list that tells them that they can't. And I wanted them to hear from you because, like I said in the beginning, I think you're a phenomenal example of why the question, what if it works, is
Yeah.
better than what if it doesn't work and what if it goes horribly wrong. Again, thank you for sharing that. Obviously, I know that can be quite a personal list of what people want, but I think that's a really really valuable thing to hear from you, someone who's done it, someone who's been there, someone who's been on that journey, someone who's still on that journey, and I am 100% sure we are yet to see the level of creativity that you're going to come out with and grace us with over the next few years. On the edge of my seat for that one. But my final question for you, Koi, is what's one piece of pivot propaganda you tell pivoters not to fall for, having been someone who's been there and done it?
It's really easy to try to fit everybody's vehicle to success, whether that's a really rigid morning routine or like an hour of meditation or you know, stuff. And a lot of these things are not in everyone's wheelhouse, you know,
Yeah.
and it can start to feel like you're excluded from the, it could still work out for you. Can be, I think the important thing to do is not to try and transform yourself in one day. It can lead to like repetitive disappointment, which
Mhm.
isn't great for anyone. I think it is to strip everything back to the core necessities. What do you like with a childish fever? Like, what is it that you're interested in with
Yeah.
that? In a way, a kid is obsessed with a red Lego block. Like, what fascinates you? What is just interesting or passionate or problem you want to solve? Just
Yeah.
like identify that, and then identify a fraction of that, and then the other part of it is create the environment that lets you do that as best as you can. That might not be a 6 a.m. start. That might be after the kids are done with whatever they're doing. That might not be something that people around you believe in. So don't tell them. Don't need people to understand. You
Mm.
know, don't you don't need to shout from the rooftops. You don't need to change your status about it. You don't need to announce it if it doesn't serve you. If you want to spend 7 hours focused on something, give yourself the space to do it. Like,
Yeah.
stop trying to, the propaganda I think everyone should leave behind is stop trying to make the journey palatable to other people. Please. It's a waste of your energy and your time. It is an extra job you're taking on.
Yeah.
Like, and no one's paying you. In fact, it's taken away from you. Do what you need to do to get what you need to get done. Do you know what I mean? Like,
100.
yeah. So that would be the thing I would say. That's the thing I've learned. Like,
Yeah.
and it's very refreshing. It is drinking cold water on a hot day. It is like finally things make sense.
I couldn't agree with you more, really. It's it's hard though, isn't it? Like it's so easy to it's all we see all the time, particularly if you're on like social media, etc. It looks like there is only one way to succeed. There's a club, and if you're not in that club, you're just not going to make it. So I'm so glad you said that. As
Yeah.
someone that's been there and done it in your own way.
Yeah. But I would say entrepreneurs and creatives are notorious non-clubbers. Like, if you were part of a club, you wouldn't be that. Like, honestly, go and become the 70-year-old makeup guru that you want to be. Go and be the differently abled sports person that you want. Like, go and make you normal to the world. Like,
Right.
wherever that is. Like, I've had. By the way, let me not lie to anybody. Like, this mentality that I just said that feels so true to me took me a good amount of time to get to. Took
Right.
me endless conversations to get to. Took me prayer and tears to get to. Like, I had to say it, not believe it. Say it, it sounds nice. Say it to people, they're happy with it. I don't quite still believe it. Say it, say it, say it. So it was like, now I believe it. You know, it takes a second. It's not easy, but you can continue where you're at, or you can look back and be like, I'm glad I made that decision. I'm glad I did it differently. And
Mm.
you really don't matter that much to other people for you to minimize your life and story.
Just go for it. Just go for it. Ah, Koi, thank you so much for your transparency, for your honesty around like what it actually takes and how to navigate the space in the way you have. Not saying anyone's going to have the exact same journey, but it's such a refreshing perspective and not the perspective we hear all the time. Because we're not clubbers as we've established. So thank you so much for coming and sharing that. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your time. And I know that there's going to be someone listening to this that it's just going to hit the nail on the head for everything that they've been thinking about and not necessarily having the words to like say out loud. So I'm so grateful, so grateful.
Thank you so much. And that's success to me, honestly. And if they want to give me cash moolah as well, that's great. But thank you so much, Power. I'm obsessed with you. This is very customary at the end of every pod to just like have a love fest. And I have so much time for you. I think what you're doing is amazing. You have carved out so much knowledge for yourself that you do not need to share with everyone, but you do constantly. And your help isn't flaccid and empty and self-serving. It is life-changing and life-affirming. And um, I, whatever you need, I can't vouch for somebody more in this life than I would vouch for you. Honestly, like I'm super happy, and every single individual that takes away this whole entire series and adds a bit of elbow grease to it, guaranteed your life will change, and guaranteed how will be there to help. Like, she just is, whether it's through whatever else she does or brings up, you're going to always have that encouraging voice. So, Howard, thank you for existing and being brave enough to exist loudly in multiple industries. Tell them, come on.
Nothing more for me to add to that. I think we're gonna end it there. Thank you so much.